We are live. Namaste, everyone. A very warm good evening to all. So, today on 24th December 2024, we are organizing a lecture entitled as a review of Shaivism in the Mathura region as seen through archaeological and literary sources. Today's our resource person is Sneha Nagarkar, research scholar and visiting faculty, Department of Archaeology, University of Mumbai. As earlier, we also had a lecture of Sneha ji on Bhagavad Gita and iconography on the platform of the history enthusiast. This is her second session with the history enthusiast, and we are very much happy for her enthusiastic collaboration with us. So I take this opportunity to introduce our today's resource person, Sneha Nagarkarji. As I already told, she is a faculty at Bombay University and a research scholar. And She is also very much interested in the archaeological and iconographic history of Mathura region. She is pursuing her PhD in ancient Indian culture from the University of Bombay. Uh, so she is also visiting faculty at Center for Hindu Studies in same University of Mumbai. She has presented more than 34 research papers in national and state level international conferences and has 33 publications to her credit. She has authored a book titled Ancient Indian Economy: The Role of Varta, which was published by Indica in 2023. And she has delivered 67 public lectures. Her areas of specialization are ancient Indic art and architecture, especially Indic temple architecture, iconography, Sthala Mahatmes, pilgrimage studies, ancient Indic economy and polity, history of Sanatana Dharma with special focus on Vaishnavism, as well as the history and culture of the Mathura Vrindavana region. Um, we are very much glad to have Snehaji for the second time on the platform of the history enthusiast. So now I request Snehaji to start her lecture. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Nidhi ji. A very warm good evening. Namaste to all present. And without any further delay, I will share my screen and start the presentation. Is the screen visible?
Uh, Not yet, not yet.
Okay, wait 1 minute. Is the screen visible now?
Yes, yes, it's clearly visible. Yes.
Okay. So, the title of my presentation is A Review of Shaivism in the Mathura region as seen through archaeological and literary sources. Now, Mathura is in popular culture and otherwise also very intimately associated with Lord Krishna because Mathura is the place where he was born. And since the last 2000 years, Mathura has been an extremely important religious center, not just for Hinduism but also for Buddhism, Jainism, and folk religious cults like those of Nagas and Yaksha. So, as a sacred place, actually, Mathura can date back right up to the second century BCE. And apart from being a center of Vaishnavism, Mathura was also a very prominent center of Shaivism. And Shiva was an extremely popular and highly worshipped deity in the Mathura region. And this is attested by archaeological and literary sources. So, if you go to the Mathura Museum, the government museum in Mathura, you will see a number of Shaiva icons. And we will see some of them in this presentation. Of course, being a center for Shaivism doesn't mean that it was not a center for other religions or other cults, especially in terms of Vaishnavism, because there have been attempts by certain foreign scholars to very arbitrarily prove that Shaivism was extremely dominant in Mathura and not Vaishnavism, but that is not so. Both Shaivism and Vaishnavism were equally significant in the religious milieu of ancient and medieval Mathura, especially ancient and early medieval Mathura. I think that would be a better way to state it. So, the antiquity of Shaivism in Mathura goes back to the late 1st century BCE or the 1st century CE. Shaivism was a dominant sect in both ancient and early medieval Mathura. From the medieval period onwards, gradually we find the acculturation of Shaivism into Krishnaism. And this is reflected in some of the Tirtha Mahatmyas of Mathura. Tirtha Mahatmyas or Sthala Mahatmyas are texts which extol the glory, which give the details, which highlight the sacredness of a certain site, and in a way encourage pilgrims to visit that site. And from the early medieval period onwards, Sthala Mahatmyas became an extremely integral part of many of the Puranic texts. So, in fact, the Skanda Purana is full of such Mahatmyas. It has various khandas, and those khandas, like for example, we have the Kashi Khanda, which has in-depth information about the sacred geography of Kashi or Varanasi. So there are many Mahatmyas dedicated to Mathura also, and we will see some of them in this presentation. Now, a huge Shivalinga was found at the site of Kankali Tila or Kankali Mount, which was actually a Jaina site, and another stone plaque depicting the worship of a Shivalinga by superhuman beings from Bhuteshwara. These two are the oldest evidences of Shaivism in Mathura. Both of them date back to the 1st century BCE or at the most early part of the 1st century CE. Now, a number of Ekamukha Shivalingas have been found in Mathura, which date from the Kushana period onwards. And one thing which is extremely important is that Shaiva worship was not only restricted to the autochthonous population, the local population of the Mathura region, but was also adopted by communities like the Shakas who had foreign origins, who were from other places, were settled in India due to certain historical reasons. And epigraphical and sculptural evidences indicate the existence of Shaiva sects like the Pashupata Sampradaya in Mathura in the Gupta period. And the number of images of Lord Shiva, either alone or with Parvati as Uma Maheshwara, to rise sharply, begin to proliferate from the Gupta period onwards, and this phenomena continues right till the early medieval period. Now, as per common belief, there are four principal Shaiva deities, four principal Mahadevas of the Mathura region. So we have Bhuteshwara at Mathura, in the proper city of Mathura. Then we have Kameshwara in Kamavana, then Chakreshwar at Govardhana, and Gopeshwar or Gopeshwara at Vrindavana. So these are the four principal Mahadevas of the Mathura region, and they are supposed to be the protectors of the Mathura region. To put it in extremely colloquial terms, these are the Kotwals of the Mathura region. In local parlance, they are called the Kotwals of the Mathura region. And among these four, Bhuteshwara is the oldest. Now, this what we just saw was for the entire Mathura region, or which is known as Braja. But there are four principal Mahadevas as Kshetrapalas of the city of Mathura. So we of course have Bhuteshwara, who is supposed to guard Mathura from the west. Then we have Rangeshwara, followed by Pippaladeshwara, who guards Mathura from the east. And finally, in the northern quarter of Mathura, or at the northern end of Mathura, we have Gokarneshwara. And except for Pippaladeshwara, we have archaeological material available from all the three sites where the three Mahadevas are located. Now, certain inscriptions from the Mathura region also indicate the presence of Shaivism. So, there is this place called Chaurasi, which is on the Delhi Agra highway, and an inscription was found there which recorded the construction of a Devakula. By Devakula, we mean a temple. The construction of a Devakula by some people, which was dedicated to Lord Maheshwara, that is, of course, Shiva, and the Devakula had a Pushkarani. What do we understand by a Pushkarani? A tank. So the Devakula had a Pushkarani, an Arama, a garden, and a Sabha. So in many of the ancient inscriptions in Mathura, we find that rather than being just single isolated temples, they were temple complexes. So, what we find in the later temples was already present in the Mathura region. So, the temples had pushkaranis or tanks, some of them had wells. The temples had their own gardens from which probably, flowers might have been fetched for the worship. And they would have a hall or a sabha also. And this sabha may have been used for public functions, public gatherings, or some functions or rituals related to the temple. We don't know what was their purpose, but we can think, we can contemplate on that. And then in the Gupta period, we have the famous Mathura pillar inscription belonging to the first or the fifth regnal year of Chandragupta II, the well known Gupta ruler. And this inscription belongs to the Pashupada Sampradaya. I will speak in detail about this inscription a little later. Then, an inscription dated to the 10th century CE, which was found at Kamavana, mentions a temple of Kamyakeshwara in Kamavana and gifts being made to the deity. So, Kamyakeshwara, in all probability, was the name of a Shaiva deity. Generally, when the name Ishvara comes, we have to understand that the deity will be a Shaiva deity. Then, slightly later, a copper plate inscription of the Chandela ruler Deva Varma Deva, dated to the year 1015, tells us that the king bathed and worshipped Lord Shulapani, that is Shiva, on a full moon day at Koti Tirtha and granted a village on the bank of the Yamuna to a Brahmana. So scholars like Alan Entwistle have, they have postulated that this Koti Tirtha could be the Koti Tirtha on the Yamuna in Mathura. So probably at Koti Tirtha there might have been some temple, some shrine dedicated to Shiva, and Actually, there are two Koti Tirthas in Mathura, Uttara Koti and Dakshina Koti. But here there is reference to only Koti Tirtha. So we don't know which of the two Koti Tirthas is meant. Anyway, so these are the epigraphical references to the presence of Shaivism in the Mathura region. So the first inscription dates to the Shaka Kushana period and the last dates to the early medieval period. So this is a plaque which I mentioned where we can see these semi-divine beings. You know, they are half human, half animal. They have wings, and they are carrying offerings. They are carrying garlands to be offered to the Shivalinga. So here you can see the Shivalinga, and the Shivalinga is placed on a railing, and it is under a tree. It's, there is no constructed temple as such, but there is a platform on which the Shivalinga stands, and this plaque was obtained from Bhuteshwara. So the antiquity of Bhuteshwara as a Shaiva site goes back to the first century BCE, or the first the beginning of the first century CE. So that is why I said that among all the Mahadevas in the Mathura region and in the city of Mathura, Bhuteshwara has the greatest antiquity. Bhuteshwara is the oldest. Then this is a plaque which was obtained from the city of Mathura, where we can see two shakas. Two shaka men. We know that they are shakas from their dress. So they have come to worship this Shivalinga, and one is offering a garland and the other is offering a bunch of flowers to the Shivalinga. And here you can see a flying being, probably a Vidyadhara, we do not know. And this is a part of a larger sculpture, but the other part of the sculpture is not available. But here we can see that Shakas who had a foreign origin were following in Indic religious traditions, and they had adopted Indic religious traditions, and the Shaka rulers, they were also patronizing Indic religious traditions like Buddhism. So here they are worshipping this Shivalinga, probably in a shrine, probably in a temple. This is the site of the famous Tokri or Itokri Tila in the village of Mat. So the village of Mat is located on the opposite bank of the river Yamuna, and it is a small town in the Mathura district. And in a group of wheat fields, we have this Tokri Tila. And why is it called the Tokri Tila? Because the Kushanas were known as the Tokarians. And here the Kushanas had a Devakula. So this Devakula, according to certain scholars like Fussman and Mr. Anand Kanitkar, was a Shaiva shrine. It was not a dynastic temple of the Kushanas, in the sense it was not just meant to house the sculptures of the Kushana rulers, because it is from here that statues of Kushana rulers like Vimatakshama or Vimatakho and his grandson Kanishka I were found. Both these sculptures are housed in the Mathura Museum. And this was a temple which was equipped with a tank, a sabha, an arama, and this, in all probability, was a Shaiva temple where the Kushana rulers would come along with the other members of their family, their queens, their sons, their ministers, and they would worship Lord Shiva here. And we know that kings like Vima Kadphises. Vima Kadphises was the son of Vima Takshama and the father of Kanishka the first, were worshippers of Shiva. We know that. So this was the dynastic temple of the Kushanas in the sense that it was the royal temple where the Kushanas must have come and worshipped. This is a Sarvatobhadra Shivalinga available from Mathura, where we can see that four faces of Shiva have been carved on the Shivalinga. This also belongs to the Kushana period. This is another Ekamukha Linga from the Kushana period, which was found at Mathura. So here we can see that Shiva has a mustache. His third eye can be prominently seen. His Jatabhara can be prominently seen. So earlier we saw just plain Shivalingas, but from the Kushana period onwards, we find these Ekamukha Lingas. And Ekamukha Lingas were extremely popular in the Gupta period also, not just in Mathura, but in other parts of India as well, especially northern India. This is a very interesting sculpture. Here we have Ardhanarishwara Vishnu. This in all probability is the oldest depiction of Ardhanarishwara Shiva, I'm sorry. And here we have Vishnu with the Gada and the Chakra. Here we have Lakshmi or Gajalakshmi. Gajalakshmi would be more correct. And this is Kubera. So Kubera and Lakshmi are associated. Vishnu and Lakshmi are also associated. And Shiva and Kubera are associated. But what is the exact relation of Ardhanarishwara Shiva with Kubera, or what is the mutual relation of these four as a collective representation has not yet been correctly understood. But here we have all these four deities depicted on a plaque from Mathura. So, this is the famous pillar from Mathura, which has an extremely important inscription dated to the first or the fifth regnal year of the Gupta ruler Chandragupta II Vikramaditya. So, just a minute. So, this was found at a bagichi or a garden known as the Chandul Mandul Bagichi near the Rangeshwar Mahadeva temple. That's why I said that the Rangeshwar Mahadeva temple, the Bhuteshwara Mahadeva temple, and the Gokarneshwar Mahadeva temple have all yielded archaeological material. So we have this pillar inscription in Sanskrit inscribed in the typical Gupta Brahmi script, which mentions Emperor Samudragupta, Maharajadiraja Samudragupta, and his son Maharajadiraja Chandragupta. And this records the installation of two Shivalingas by one Pashupata Acharya known as Udita Acharya in the memory of his Guru and the Guru's Guru. And these two Shivalingas were installed in the Guruvayatana. Probably there was an ayatana or a temple dedicated to gurus. In the sense, it must have been a place where Shivalingas in the memory of the departed gurus were placed. And to perpetuate the memory of his guru and his Parama Guru, Uditacharya had installed these two Shivalingas. And probably this pillar was also from the same Guruvayatana. And here we can see a figure, and this figure is Lakulisha. Who is Lakulisha? Lakulisha is supposed to be the founder of the Pashupata Sampradaya. He was the 28th incarnation of Shiva, and he is supposed to be the founder of the Pashupata Sampradaya. And later, in many of the Pashupata monuments, like caves and temples, we find the depiction of Lakulisha. He was known as Lakulisha because he used to carry the Lakuta in his hands. This could be a Lakuta, which we can see here. And here you can see the third eye on his forehead. And the Pashupata Sampradaya was one of the most popular Shaiva Sampradayas in ancient and early medieval India. And even like I hail from the city of Mumbai. So the Shaiva caves which we have in Mumbai, starting with Jogeshwari and then followed by Elephanta and Mandapeshwar, they were all Pashupata caves. And even some of the Hindu caves at Ellora are also Pashupata caves. So this inscription is extremely important to understand the history of Shaivism in Mathura. This is a very beautiful sculpture of Lakulisha. Here you can see the Lakuta in his hand, and here he is teaching. He is in the attitude of teaching. He is worshipped as a great guru. And in the Pashupata Sampradaya, the guru is called Ayatana Mahat. That the guru himself was a great Ayatana. And without the grace of the guru, without the guru's anugraha, you cannot attain dukkhanta. You need the anugraha of the guru. So here we see Lakulisha is the great teacher in the Vyakhyana Mudra, and he is flanked by two disciples. Lakulisha had four prominent disciples. Here we can only see two. And this particular sculpture dates to the Gupta period, and this was obtained from a ghat on the Yamuna at Mathura known as the Swami Ghat. So probably there was a Lakulisha or a Pashupata shrine there. This is an image of Shiva belonging to the Gupta period. Unfortunately, it's a broken image. But Shiva here is Urdhva Linga, and we can see one of his hands is in the Abhaya Mudra. We can see the Jata Bhara on his head, and these flames, fire is emerging out of his, rather from behind his head. This is not a good photograph, but these are certain Shaiva heads of Shiva sculptures. Like here you can see Harihara. Here this is a beautiful sculpture of Shiva with the Jata Bhara. This is a sculpture of Ardhanarishwara Shiva. These two are also sculptures of Shiva. So in the Gupta period, Shaivism was extremely popular in the Mathura region. This is an Ekamukhi Shivalinga from the late Kushana period, late Kushana or early Gupta period, where we can see the Jatabhara on Shiva's head and the third eye can be seen prominently. He has full lips, okay, and the eyes appear to be partially closed. This is an image of Uma Maheshwar. Now we also find the depiction of Shiva along with his consort Parvati or Uma. So here we have the depiction of Uma Maheshwara standing very close to each other. And we can see Shiva with the Jata Bhara. We can see Parvati with a beautiful headdress. Unfortunately, the sculpture is not in a very good condition. But we can see that Shiva with his one hand is embracing Parvati. Even in later art, especially Chola art, we find this Alingana Chandrasekhara Murti. This is not Alingana Chandrasekhara, but here we can see Shiva and Parvati in close embrace. This is the Rudra Pankti, which was a part of of a large Vishwarupa panel which was obtained from Katara Keshava Deva or Sri Krishna Janmasthan. So here we can see the very fierce faces of Rudra with the Jatabhara, the third eye, fangs, and a very his mouth is open, and overall it's a very fierce kind of a depiction. So we can see these two faces are especially very fierce. These two faces are especially very fierce. Then we come to the medieval period, and in the medieval period depiction of Shiva, the most popular depiction was that of Uma Maheshwara, and the depiction of Uma Maheshwara greatly conforms to the depiction of Uma Maheshwara in other parts of India. It is, I mean, there is nothing unique about these, sculptures from Mathura. They are following the pan-Indian, or rather the pan-North and the Central Indian pattern. Now here we can see Shiva and Parvati seated, and we can see Nandi here, and both Shiva and Parvati are in close embrace of each other. And here we can see Ganesha. Generally, in the Uma Maheshwara images from Mathura, we find the presence of Ganesha. So both of them are decked in ornaments. The Jatabhara of Shiva can be clearly seen. Parvati is wearing a very elaborate kind of a hairstyle. This is another depiction of Uma Maheshwara, where you can see Shiva holding the Trishula. We can see both Shiva and Parvati in close embrace. You can see the Jatabhara on Shiva's head. Here also we have the presence of Ganesha, and these are the Ganas of Shiva. This is another depiction of Uma Maheshwara. This is a depiction of probably Uma Maheshwara, but only Shiva's head can be seen, and Brahma can be seen prominently here, and this in all probability could be Brungi. You can see that Shiva's head, the Jata Mukuta, Jatabhara can be clearly seen. In his ears, he is wearing a beautiful circular kundala, and see his eyebrows, they're beautifully etched. This is also another depiction of Uma Maheshwara. Here also Ganesha can be seen, Nandi can be seen, and here Shiva in one of his hands is holding a serpent. We can, this probably is an attendant, and one of the hands of Shiva is touching the, in fact, two of his hands are touching the breasts of Parvati. This is Kalyana Sundara Murti, the marriage of Shiva and Parvati. Unfortunately, the faces of both Shiva and Parvati have been destroyed. We don't know if it was deliberate or it happened because of the during the course of the time, during the vagaries of time, but whatever. And we can see Brahma officiating the wedding ceremony. Brahma is the priest, and he's consecrating the sacred fire for the marriage, and we can see the vidhi of pani grahana taking place. Shiva has taken Parvati's hand in marriage, and here probably this could be her father Himavan, who was getting ready for the Kanya Dana. And here we can see two attendants, two lady attendants. Then this is a Uma Maheshwara image from Bengal, which is there in the Mathura Museum. Here you can see Shiva is admiring the beauty of Parvati. It's as if he is lauding her for her beauty. We can see the Trishul of Shiva very prominently. We can see the mount of Parvati or Uma, the lion. We can see Nandi here, and both Shiva and Parvati are seated on a huge lotus. And in fact, Parvati is seated on the left lap of Shiva. This is a Sarvatobhadra Shivalinga from Mathura. Its provenance is not known. And on the four faces of the Shivalinga, we have Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesha, that is Shiva, and Surya. So here we have three-headed Shiva or Mahesha, and we can see his mount Nandi below, and we have two worshippers here and many other beings here. They may or may not be Ayudha Purushas. Here we can see the Jata Mukuta of Shiva. There are skulls in his Jata Mukuta. And here the third eye cannot be seen. But he's decked up in all ornaments. We don't know what he was carrying in his hands because the hands are broken and he's seated, he's standing in the Samabhanga position. Now coming to the literary sources. From the early medieval period onwards, the Vaishnava sect in general and the Krishnite sect in particular became very dominant in the Mathura region. And the Sthala Mahatmyas of Mathura, the earliest of which date back to the 12th century CE, project Mathura mainly as a Vaishnava center. But in spite of being essentially Vaishnava in character, these Sthala Mahatmyas of Mathura have numerous references to the worship of Lord Shiva. So we have the list of Sthala Mahatmyas. All of these are not Sthala Mahatmyas, but they talk about the worship of Shiva. Like it starts from the Hari Vansha. So in the Hari Vansha, there is a reference that when the Yadavas left Mathura for Dwaraka, they paid their respects to Shiva, Lord Shiva, and then they left. So we'll see what is there in the Bhagavata Purana also. Then we have the Mathura Mahatmya in the Tirtha Vivechana Kanda of Lakshmidhara's Kritya Kalpataru. Now here the Mahatmya of Mathura has been sourced from the Varaha Purana and the Vishnu Purana. Then we have the Mathura Mahatmya, the full-fledged Mathura Mahatmya in the Varaha Purana, the Adi Varaha Purana. Then we have the Garga Samhita, then the Narada Purana, then the Padma Purana, Skanda Purana, Bhushundi Ramayana. Then we have Srila Rupa Goswami's Mathura Mahatmya. Then we have the Lalita Madhava Natakam of Srila Rupa Goswami. Then we have Narayana Bhatta's Vraja Bhakti Vilasa. Then Goswami Vitthalanatha's Vraja Yatra. Goswami Vitthalanatha was the son of Sri Vallabhacharya, who was the founder of the Pushti Vaishnava Sampradaya. Then we have Jagatananda's Vraja Vastu Varnana and Vraja Grama Varnana. Then we have Mitra Mishra's Veera Mitrodaya or Tirtha Prakasha. Then we have Vrajariti Chintamani. Then we have the 18th century Bhakti Ratnakara. Then we have the modern Vrindavana Dhamanuragavali composed by Gopal Kavi in the 19th century. Then we have another 19th century creation known as the Gokarneshwarashtakam. Then we have another work known as the Radha Kunda Mahima Madhuri, which speaks about certain Shiva temples in the region in and around Radha Kunda. And finally, we have the Baithaka Charitra, which gives the details of the Baithaks of Sri Vallabhacharya ji. So, Baitaks were the places where Vallabhacharya ji, Mahaprabhu Vallabhacharya ji, gave discourses on the Bhagavata Purana. So we come to the Bhagavata Purana. We start our discussion with the Bhagavata Purana. So the Bhagavata Purana in the 34th Adhyaya of the 10th Skanda, Dashama Skanda, has the episode of the Gopas going to Ambikavana to see the fair on the occasion of Shivaratri. And there they bathed in the stream called Saraswati and worshipped Lord Pashupati and Devi Ambika. Lord Pashupati is Lord Shiva, and Devi Ambika with a lot of devotion, and they offered various articles of pujana. And the Gopas also donated cows, gold, garments, honey, as well as sweet dishes to the Brahmanas to receive the grace of Lord Shiva. Then coming to the Padma Purana Patala Khanda, we are told that those who continuously meditate, those who continuously think about the city of Mathura, even if they have no money, are indeed great. As Bhagavan Bhuteshwara resides in Mathura, who confers liberation even to those who have sinned, even to sinners. The most serious of the papis are also given moksha by Lord Bhuteshwara, by Bhagavan Bhuteshwara, who resides in Mathura. And Bhagavan Bhuteshwara is the greatest among the devatas, and he is very dear to Lord Sri Krishna because he never leaves the city of Mathura. He is permanently dwelling in the city of Mathura. And the Padma Purana goes to the extent of stating that a person who does not offer namaskaras to Lord Bhuteshwara or does not remember him or worship him is an evil person. And now here we can see the process of acculturation. The one who does not practice devotion to Bhagavan Bhuteshwara, who is one of Lord Krishna's greatest devotees, can never attain devotion to Lord Krishna. So here, Lord Shiva as Bhuteshwara has been shown as a devotee of Lord Krishna. So, through these devotee and deity relationships, this process of acculturation was worked out. And we see the other way around also in the Shaiva Mahatmyas where Vishnu is a devotee of Shiva. He's offering lotus flowers to Shiva and all those things. So there is another kind of acculturation. Here there is another kind of acculturation depending on the dominant sect. Now we come to the Mathura Mahatmya of the Varaha Purana, which is the most detailed Mahatmya of the city of Mathura. So here we have Lord Varaha, Vishnu in his Varaha Avatara, elucidating the greatness of Mathura Kshetra to his consort Dharani or Bhudevi. And there are a number of references to Shaiva sites. So there is a reference to a Shiva Kunda. Then there is a Shiva Kshetra situated at a distance of half a krosha from Koti Tirtha, which is described as Dushkaram. So here, here this also underlines the relationship between Koti Tirtha and some kind of a Shaiva site, which we saw in the inscription of the Chandela ruler. And the Mathura Mahatmya says that Tatra Sthito Haro Devaha Mathuram Rakshate Sada. So this Hara Deva, not Hari Deva, Hara Deva, who is situated at this Shiva Kshetra, protects Mathura always, eternally. And a person who bathes at this Tirtha and consumes water here is blessed with all the merit, all the punya of Mathura. And the one who gives up his life at this kshetra attains the loka of Vishnu. So even if it's a Shaiva kshetra, a Shiva kshetra, you attain the loka of Lord Vishnu if you give up your life here. Then there is a Mahatirtha in Bahulavana. Bahulavana is one of the 12 prominent forests in the Mathura region. And today it is identified with the modern village of Bati, very close to Mathura. And a person who bathes there attains the loka of Rudra. Then the Mathura Mahatmya talks about two kshetras, the Veerasthala and the Kushasthala. And near these tirthas is Pushpasthala, which is a Shiva kshetra. And the one who has a bath here attains honor, is honored in the loka of Lord Shiva. Then Varaha tells Dharani that he has appointed Dikpalas to protect Mathura. So, who are these Dikpalas? They are the four Lokapalas. So, from the east, Indra, south, Yama, west, Varuna with the Pasha. So, Pasha is an important part of Varuna's iconography and his whole evolution as a Devata. And Kuber guards Mathura from the north. And Lord Umapati himself protects the central part of the city. Now, if you see in the Mathura Mahatmya, we don't have this concept of the four Mahadevas of the city of Mathura. They are mentioned, except Rankeshwar, all the three are mentioned. That is Bhuteshwar, Gokarneshwar, and Pipaladeshwara. But there is no concept like the four principal Mahadevas. And in fact, the Mahatmya says that in the four directions we have the four Lokapalas or the four Dikpalas who are protecting Mathura. And Lord Shiva, Lord Umapati Shiva is there in the central part of the city and protecting that part of the city. Madhyam tu rakshate nityam Shivo Devo Umapatihi. Th- That is what the Mathura Mahatmya is stating. Then the Mathura Mahatmya is also talking about the parikrama of Mathura. So, on the Shukla Navami of Kartika, there is a parikrama of the city of Mathura. The whole modern city is not circumambulated, but a certain part of the city is circumambulated. So, the parikrama starts from Vishranti Tirtha or Vishram Ghat at Yamuna and concludes. So the pilgrims circumambulate the whole city, and the parikrama concludes at Vishram Ghat. So you take a sankalpa, you pray to Yamuna Devi, the river Yamuna, to bless your yatra, and then you circumambulate the city and come back and thank Yamuna Maya, as she's called in Braj. You thank her for making your parikrama devoid of any obstacles, and you make some offerings to the Brahmanas there. So, there is a reference to the cave of Lavana. Lavana was a Danava. And there you have the darshan of Shatrughaneshwara. And this results in the emancipation from all sins. So, the narrative is that Shatrughna killed the Danava Lavana who was living in Madhuvana and established the city of Mathura there. So you find this narrative in the Uttarakand of the Ramayana, the Valmiki Ramayana. Then you have it in the Hari Vansha. Then it is also found in the Vishnu Purana. And this Shatrughaneshwar probably may refer to a Shivalinga which is supposed to have been installed by Shatrughna. Now, There is also a place called Shiva Kunda, and one earns great merit by bathing in this kunda. Then you have a Shiva deity known as Mallikarjuna who bestowed victory on Krishna. Then the pilgrims must take the darshan of Kshetrapala Bhuteshwara, and by this the parikrama of Mathura is successful. So even today, the parikrama of Mathura goes to the Bhuteshwara temple. It first goes to the Balabhadra Kunda. From the Balabhadra Kunda, it proceeds to Bhuteshwara. And you cannot proceed further without visiting the temple of Bhuteshwara. So you go inside, have darshana, and leave. So generally in the parikrama, most pilgrims don't enter temples. They are just walking around. But this is not so in the case of Bhuteshwara. Every pilgrim will make it a point to enter the temple of Bhuteshwara, have his darshan, and then proceed with the parikrama. He is on the parikrama, the Bhuteshwara is on the parikrama marga of Mathura, and this is one of the important temples which is still a part of the Mathura parikrama. Otherwise, the Mathura parikrama, which is performed today in the present day, is very different from what the Mathura Mahatmya is talking about. And this Kartika, I myself performed the parikrama of Mathura, and it was a kind of a great experience for me to absorb the various dimensions of this very dynamic and very vibrant parikrama. Then we have a shrine of Shiva known as Garteshwara Mahadeva, and the Mathura Mahatmya says that one must have the darshan of the sthan of Garteshwara Shiva, and it is only with this that one procures the full merit of the parikrama. And one must take the darshana of the Mahadeva named Gokarneshwara, and because of his darshana, a person is emancipated from all sins. Then a kshetrapa or kshetrapala called Rudra Mahalayam, who resembles the countenance of Lord Mahadeva, is also there in Mathura. His darshana confers the fruit of kshetra vasa, residence at a kshetra. We don't know where this deity is now. Then near this, one must have the darshan of Ganeshwara. Then there are two Mahatirthas, Bhadreshwara and Someshwara. And here one must bathe and then have the darshan of Lord Someshwara and receive the fruit of the yatra. Then one must sing the praises of Deva Devesha Kshetrapa Shiva, followed by a bath at the Vishranti Tirtha, and then offer tarpana to the Pitrus. Then the text talks about Pingaladeshwara or Pippaladeshwara Mahadeva, who was established, who is supposed to have been established by Mahatapasvi Pippalada Rishi, and Pippalada is himself supposed to have be believed to have worshipped this Shivalinga, and Pippalada circumambulated the Shivalinga and rested there. And there is another place mentioned known as Devagiri, where one must have the darshan of Mahadeva, bathe in the kunda there, and offer tarpana to the Pitrus. Now, many of these sites, Pipaladeshwara is there, but many of these sites are no longer traceable. So this is Sri Pipaleshwar, Pipaladeshwar Nath Mahadeva. It's a very small temple. There are no signs of anything pre-modern in this temple, and it is there right on the banks of the Yamuna, very close to Prayagatirtha. Then Dharani, who is very curious, asks Lord Varaha about the Kshetrapal of Mathura, who resides in Mathura and protects the city. And Lord Varaha answers her query, he answers her doubt by stating that there dwells the great Bhupati Deva in Mathura, who emancipates people from great sins and bestows them with boons. And as per the account given in the present text, Lord Shiva practiced severe austerities for 1,000 years. And he was practicing this tapa to propitiate Lord Vishnu. And finally, Lord Vishnu appeared before him and he showed readiness to grant him a boon. So, Lord Shiva says that Lord Vishnu is all pervading, and with the latter's blessings, Lord Shiva would like to dwell eternally in the city of Mathura. So, Lord Vishnu agreed and he granted Lord Shiva the position of the Kshetrapal of Mathura, which is Lord Vishnu's city itself. In fact, in the Mathura Mahatmya, there are a lot of references to Mathura being a Kshetra of Lord Vishnu. And we all know that. I mean, that is common knowledge. And further, Lord Vishnu also stated that a person will procure the fruit of pilgrimage to Mathura only after the darshana of Lord Shiva as the Kshetrapala, and without his darshana, the pilgrims will, under no circumstances, secure siddhi of the pilgrimage. That is why, even when pilgrims are performing the 1 month long Vrajamandala Parikrama, they make it a point to visit the shrine of Lord Shiva as Bhuteshwara. So nowadays, many people coming from outside to Mathura, people coming from other places like Bengal, many Gaudiya Vaishnavas, just a minute. Many Gaudiya Vaishnavas, they come to Mathura, they come to Braja during the month of Kartika, and they do not perform the parikrama of Mathura as given in the Mathura Mahatmya. But when they visit Mathura, the first shrine that they visit is that of Bhuteshwara Mahadeva. And I've seen they are offering lamps, they are praying to Bhuteshwara Mahadeva with a lot of devotion. So this is the Bhuteshwara Mahadeva Shivalinga. It is a modern Shivalinga, and the present temple was constructed during the Maratha period. There is also a shrine of Patala Devi here, which is supposed to be a Shakti Pitha. These are the people coming out of the shrine of Bhuteshwara Mahadeva during the Mathura Parikrama. You can see the crowd here. And the temple of Bhuteshwara is located on a mound, on an archaeological mound. Of course, now the whole mound is covered with constructions. And Bhuteshwara, the site of Bhuteshwara was also the site where there was a Buddhist vihara. And some of the railing pillars of this vihara are there in the Indian Museum in Kolkata. And on these railing pillars, we have depictions of beautiful yakshis. Then we come to the Gokarnopakhyaana in the Mathura Mahatmya, where a lady called Sushila was married to a very prosperous Vaishya called Vasukarna, and in spite of many years of marriage, they were still without any issue. And in utter despair, they approached a sage called Ugratapa, who resided under a tree near the stream called Saraswati in Mathura. And finally, the sage took pity on her and he told her that by the blessings of Lord Shiva, she will be blessed with a son. And he further advised her to worship Lord Shiva, who is supposed to be the cause of the entire world. And Lord Shiva was to be worshipped in his ayatana, called Gokarneshwara, which was near the dwelling of the sage. and this she was to do along with her husband. So the couple, as guided by the sage, commenced the regular worship of Lord Gokarneshwara. They would have a bath at the Saraswati Sangama, offer lamps, flowers to the deity, and finally the Lord was pleased with them, and he said that the couple would have only one virtuous son. But Lord Gokarneshwar was doubtful if the son himself would have any progeny. And the couple presented Gokarneshwara, sorry, the couple presented Lord Gokarneshwara with thousands of sweet dishes, delicacies, garments, and ornaments, and also arranged for the feeding of the Brahmanas. And eventually, a son was born to this couple, and his parents named him Gokarna only as a mark of tribute to Lord Gokarneshwara, because of whose son they had begotten this child. So this is the temple of Gokarneshwara, and this is the image which is worshipped as Lord Gokarneshwara. Now this is not an image of Shiva. This is in all probability an image of Surya. Some scholars say that this is an image of Huvishka, because there was supposed to be another Devakula of the Kushanas at Gokarneshwara. Now Gokarneshwara is also a mound. In fact, it comprises of a few mounds. It is located very close to the Yamuna, and it was also the place where there were Buddhist monasteries. And according to K.D. Bajpai, this was supposed to be the place where Gardhava Yaksha, who was supposed to be, the chief Yaksha of Mathura, resided. There's a text called Mahamayuri which talks about Gardhava Yaksha being the main Yaksha, the principal Yaksha of Mathura, and he was a very malevolent Yaksha who was finally pacified by the Buddha. And today, if you ask the Mahants here, about the Gokarnopakhyan and the Mathura Mahatmya, they say they have not heard of it, and they say that this deity is named Gokarna or Gokarneshwara because of the Gokarna story in the Bhagavata Purana. And apparently, this image, has ears, supposed to have ears which resemble that of a cow, but we cannot see that anymore. But this image is definitely not that of Shiva. The iconography matches very well with that of the Surya images found from Mathura, though this is a large image. Now, coming to Rupa Goswami's Mathura Mahatmya, Rupa Goswami was a disciple of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he has compiled various statements about the greatness of Mathura from various Puranas and other texts, and his work is also known as the Mathura Mahatmya. So here Vishnu is telling Shiva that, O Deva, you will be the protector of Mathura. O Mahadeva, a person who sees you will attain the result of seeing mine, that is Lord Vishnu's abode. Then in Mathura is the deity Bhuteshwara who grants liberation even to the sinful. And the Bhuteshwara deity is supposed to be very dear to Lord Vishnu. Mama Priyatamah Nityam Devah Bhuteshwara Paraha. And further, the Mathura Mahatmya says that how can a sinful person who tries to worship me, that is Vishnu, but does not worship Bhuteshwara Shiva, attain devotion to me? So, if you want to attain the devotion of Lord Vishnu, you must worship Lord Shiva. And he says that the lowest of men who are bewildered by my Maya will not meditate on, bow down, or offer prayers to Lord Bhuteshwara. Then coming to the Bhushundi Ramayana, Purvakhanda, there is a reference to the Shivalinga of Bhutesha who destroys all sins, and one does not get the fruit of the pilgrimage of Mathura without his darshana. Then Bhutesha is also called Loka Shankara, and with his darshana and touch, all sins are washed away and one is emancipated from all bhogas. And the text also makes a reference to the Shiva Linga known as Gopeshwara. By seeing, touching, and worshipping Gopeshwara, all sorrows vanish. Sorry. Now, Bhuteshwara Shiva is again mentioned along with the mother goddesses the mother goddess Mahavidya. Then there is a temple dedicated to Vishnu, Dirgha, Vishnu, and Keshava. Keshava being the Keshava Deva temple, which is the most important temple in Mathura, same as Sri Krishna Janmasthana. Then there is a place called Mahasthala, which is supposed to be the sthan of Siddhi Mukha Shiva. Perhaps this was a Mukhalinga. And again, Bhuteshwara Mahadeva is referred to along with sacred sites like Charchika and Setu Bandhanam and all those. And Gokarna Tirtha is also mentioned along with a reference to Sadashiva. Now we come to Vraja Bhakti Vilasa by Narayana Bhatta. So here the Bhuteshwara Prarthana mantra has been given, and one has to recite this mantra 11 times and offer 11 namaskaras to Bhuteshwara Shiva. And there is again a reference to Bhuteshwara as being established in the Dwapara Yuga by the Devatas for the protection of the Bhutas. And Narayana Bhatta here in this context quotes a mantra from the Linga Purana. भूतानां रक्षणार्थाय नमस्ते भूतनायक सर्वदा वरदो देव भूतेशाय नमो नमः. And this mantra is to be recited 11 times, accompanied by 11 namaskaras to Bhuteshwar. Then there is a reference to Garteshwara Shiva also in the Vraja Bhakti Vilasa. Then there are details about the Prarthana mantra of Garteshwara Mahadeva. Then there is also a reference to a Rudra called Mahalaya. These, if you see these references, most of them have been sourced from the Mathura Mahatmya of the Varaha Purana. And then there is a reference to a Bhadreshwara Shiva near Chakra Tirtha, which was established by the Devatas. Now there is a Tirtha called Chakra Tirtha in Mathura, and there is a Shiva temple. And if you worship this Bhadreshwara Shiva, one is blessed with well-being along with wealth and a good harvest. Then the Vraja Bhakti Vilasa mentions a few Mahadevas known as Vrajeshwara Mahadevas. So one such Vrajeshwara Mahadeva was located behind the Bhanusara, and he was addressed as Maharudra. So here Vrishabhanu was supposed to be the foster father of Radha, who established this Rudra along with the Gopas for the siddhi of their wishes. And the mantra of this deity is given in the Gauri Tantra, and Vrajeshwara Mahadeva is prayed to for the well being of all the Vrajavasis, and his grace confers Vrajavasa along with good fortune and wealth. Now we come to Govardhana. And at Govardhana, we have Chakreshwara Sadashiva or Chakreshwara Mahadeva, who was established at Chakra Tirtha on the banks of the Manasi Ganga. Manasi Ganga is a huge tank in Govardhana. There is a temple also dedicated to Govardhana on its banks. And this Chakreshwara Sadashiva is supposed to have been established by the Devatas for the fulfillment of their wishes. And the mantra of Chakreshwara Mahadeva is included in the Rudrayamala. And Chakreshwara Mahadeva is said to have 5 faces. We all know that the Sadashiva form of Lord Shiva has 5 faces, and he is invoked for the protection of Rajamandala, and he too is addressed as Bhava Murti. So this is the Chakreshwara Mahadeva temple at Chakratirtha in Govardhana, and here we have these 5 Shivalingas, probably representing the 5 faces of Sadashiva. This is Chakreshwara. He is also called Chakleshwara Mahadeva, but more correctly known as Chakreshwara Mahadeva. Then there is another linga, Shivalinga mentioned as Vrajeshwara, which is supposed to be in the region surrounding the Govardhana hill. And as per this text, the Shivalinga was situated close to the Rohini Kunda. And the Rudra Yamala addresses this Vrajeshwara Shiva as Vrajamurti. So, in a way, when Vrajeshwara is referred to as Vrajamurti, he becomes the representative of the whole religious culture of Vraja. So, Mahadeva is integral to Vraja, and prayers to this deity makes the devotees the very embodiment of Vraja Bhava, and they are blessed with a long life and prosperity in the form of jewels. Then in Mahavana, we have Gopeshwara Mahadeva, who was established by the Devas for good health of the body and for the protection of entire Vraja. And this deity confers happiness and well being to all. Then we have Kameshwara Mahadeva at Kamavana, and he is the giver of all wishes, that is Kamana, and he is prayed for Mukti. And without the darshan of Kameshwara Mahadeva, the yatra and circumambulation of Kamyavana is not complete. So, this is the modern temple of Kameshwara Mahadeva. This is the Kameshwara Mahadeva Shivalinga, which is being worshipped. And here we have this early medieval sculpture of Uma Maheshwara, which is in a very bad state, but which has been preserved in the Kameshwar temple, and this was obtained in all probability from the Kameshwara temple itself. We also have these couple of Shivalingas here. Then in Kamavana, we have this Panchamukhi Mahadev Mandir, and here we have an early medieval Sarvato Bhadra image of Shiva. So sorry, Sarvato Bhadra Linga of Shiva, which is being worshipped. Now we come to the Bhakti Ratnakara, which is an 18th century text composed by Narahari Chakravarti. So this text is taken details from the Skanda Purana Mathura Khanda, and it says that is there any type of result which cannot be attained in Mathura, where Kshetrapala Mahadeva exists eternally and where there are holy places like Vishrama Ghat? Then it takes a statement from the Padma Purana, which states that the name Mathura is equal to the sound of Om. As Mathura contains the letters Ma, U, and A, so does the word Om. And these three syllables comprise the word Mathura. So Ma stands for Maharudra Shiva, Tu for Vishnu, and Ra for Brahma. This has been quoted by Mitra Mishra also. And Mathura is the highest abode where Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva always reside in the form of deities. Then again, there is a reference to Bhuteshwara as Kshetrapala, and Bhuteshwara grants liberation to the sinful, and he resides in Mathura. And only the lowest men and those who are intellectually unstable will not offer veneration to and remember Bhuteshwara. Then there is a reference to a temple of Gopeshwara in Mahavana. Mahavana is the old Gokul. And then we have Gopeshwara Mahadeva in Vrindavana, which is transcendental to the modes of nature. And by worshipping Lord Sadashiva, Gopeshwara, he is the one who looks after all the residents of Vrindavana. And when you worship him, when you pray to him, one attains success in all activities. And he is worshipped by the gopis with various articles to receive the close affection of Lord Krishna. He is known as Gopeshwara because he is worshipped by the gopis. And he is revered by the devas led by Indra, and it is only by his mercy that a person's love for Lord Krishna in Vrindavana heightens. And Gopeshwara Mahadeva is full of mercy. He rids all of their suffering and confers attachment to Krishna. Then we come to the Narada Purana. Now there is a reference to Gokarna Shiva, and the one who worships Gokarna Shiva in accordance with the Vidhi has all his wishes fulfilled, and at the end of his life he attains glory in the Shiva Loka. And this text further states that the darshan of Rangeshwara, here we have a reference to Rangeshwara, Bhuteshwara, Mahavidya, and Bhairava help the pilgrim in procuring the fruit of the Tirtha Yatra of the Mathura. And these four are supposed to be the guardians of Mathura. This is Rangeshwara Mahadeva. Then coming to Garga Samhita, which is in all probability a 16th or rather a 17th century C text. There was a sage called Asuri, who was eager to have the darshana of Lord Shiva, and he comes to Kailasa. And Lord Shiva then was meditating on Lord Krishna. So he tells the Muni that Lord Krishna is performing Rasa in Vrindavan along with the gopis. And both Lord Shiva and Asuri Muni, they want to witness the Rasotsava, and they arrive on the banks of the Yamuna in Vraja. Now the gopis guarding the entrance of the site of the Rasa refuse to allow Lord Shiva and Asuri Muni to witness the Rasa dance. Now the gopis tell them that no other male except Krishna can enter the Rasa Mandala. The only male is Lord Krishna, and if both of them are desirous of participating in the Rasa dance, they must bathe in the Manasarovara and get transformed into gopis. So Lord Shiva and the Muni bathe in the Manasarovara and become gopis themselves. Now, as per the text, Lord Krishna offers boons to the two of them and both request the Lord to grant them permanent residence in Vraja. So Lord Krishna confers this boon to them, and from that very day, Lord Shiva and Asuri Muni are residing near Vamshi Vata in the Rasa Mandala on the banks of the Yamuna. So the Lord Shiva as a gopi is worshipped as Gopishwara or Gopeshwara Mahadeva. So his Shungara for part of the day is like a gopi, and this is very close to Vamshi Vata. Vamshi Vata in Vrindavana is supposed to be the place where Krishna performed rasa along with the gopis. So you can see here that Lord Shiva is wearing a nose ring, and also the Shringara is done like that of a gopi. Then in the Skanda Purana, there is a reference in the Bhagavata Purana, the Bhagavata Mahatmya of Vajranabha. Vajranabha was the great grandson of Lord Krishna. So Vajranabha established the deities of Lord Shiva and others here. Then in another medieval text known as Jagatananda's Vrajavastu Varnana, we have references to 8 Mahadevas. Bude Baba, Bhuteshwara, Gokarna, Kameshwara, Gopesha, Gokuleshwara, Uttareshwara, and Chakreshwara. Then in the Vrajariti Chintamani, composed by Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakur, he was a great servant of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. We are told that there is a hill called Nandishwara, and on this hill we have Lord Shiva. In fact, this hill is a form of Lord Shiva, and this hill manifested itself as the home of Nanda. And this hill is identified with the village of Nandagaon, the present village of Nandagaon. And it is also said in this text that all the Brahmas and Shivas originate from the branches and roots of trees of Vraja. And north of Brahmakunda, now the text is talking about Vrindavana. There is a kunda called Brahmakunda in Vrindavan, it is still there. North of Brahmakunda is Gopisha, who is worshipped by the gopis. This is the location of Gopeshwara Mahadev. It is located towards the north of Brahmakunda. And Lord Shiva is pleased the mind of the gopis by giving them the boon of enjoying the association of Lord Krishna and experiencing pastimes with him. So this is the small temple of Nandishwara on the Nandishwara hill. Then now we are coming to the end of towards the end of the lecture. So we have the 18th century CE text known as Vrindavana Dhamanuragavali, where there is a reference to Gopishwara Mahadeva being consecrated by Vajranabha. He is called Gopishwara because he assumed the form of a gopi. Now the text repeats the narrative given in the Garga Samhita and has added the detail that Lord Krishna made Gopishwara the Kotpal of Vrindavana, and the temple of Gopishwara is near Vamshivata. Then there is also reference to Bankhandi Mahadev having appeared to give darshan to Asuri Muni. Bankhandi Mahadev is also still there in Vrindavana. And then the temple is there. Then the four Shivas in Vrindavana, Mathura, Govardhan, and Kamavana have been referred to. And there is a further reference that Vajranabha established the deities of Govinda Deva, Tulasi, and Gopishwara in Vrindavana. Gopishwara fulfills the desires of all those who have his darshana, and on Shiva Chaturdashi, a great fair is held near Gopishwara where Veda Party Brahmanas chant the Vedas and the devotees chant the name of Hara. They perform his japa, and people belonging to all the four ashramas and varnas come here to Gopishwara Mahadeva and worship him. And there is also a description of Lord Gopishwara, but this form conforms to the usual form of Lord Shiva. Then, as I said, there is a reference to Kamyakeshwara and Kameshwara being the Kshetrapala of Kamavana. And he's supposed to have been worshipped by Vrishabhanu. And Vrishabhanu wanted to be blessed with a daughter, and he obtained Radha as a daughter. Then we have a very sacred tank known as Radha Kunda near Govardhana, which is considered to be very sacred by the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. And Lord Shiva protects Radha Kunda from the west and awards the entry of non devotees in the presence of this Kunda. And the belief is that Lord Shiva is the protector of Vraja and he guards the sites of the pastimes of Radha Krishna like Radha Kunda, Vamshivata, and Manasi Ganga. And he is the protector. Lord Shiva is the protector of all the dhamas of Lord Krishna. And there is another, the most important Shiva temple in the vicinity of Radha Kunda is Kundeshwara Mahadeva, and then there is also Vanakhandi Mahadeva who is supposed to protect Radha Kunda from the east. So this is Kundeshwara Mahadeva and Radha Kunda. Then Goswami Vithalanatha performed a Vraja pilgrimage in Samvat 1600, and there is a reference to Bhuteshwara Mahadeva, Rangeshwara Mahadeva, Gokarneshwara Mahadeva, Kameshwara Mahadeva, and Gopeshwara Mahadeva. So all these were visited by Vithalnathji. Then there is also a reference to Mathura as Shivapura in a shloka from the Kalpadruma of Keshava. But this is the only place where Mathura is referred to as Shivapura, and probably it was known so because of the number of Shaiva deities within the city. And we know that Mathura, from the discussion which we have just had, we can understand that from the archaeological and literary sources, we understand that Mathura was an important Shaiva site. Now, Alan Entwistle has proposed that there was a predominance of Shaivism in Mathura before the emergence of this region as a Vaishnava pilgrimage sector, but this needs to be re-examined. Then there are many other Shiva temples also like Gangeshwara Mahadeva, then shrine of Chakreshwara, which we have already mentioned. And there are a few pieces of ancient sculpture in this temple. And near Chakreshwara Mahadev, we have the Bhajana Kuti of Sanatana Goswami, and Gokarneshwara, according to Rosenfield, is an image of a Kushana prince, he was called so because of the ears of the image. This is something I have already mentioned. And according to F.S. Grouse, who was the collector of Mathura in the 19th century, Gokarneshwara is included in the Panchatirtha Parikrama of Mathura, which starts on Naga Panchami. And the other sites included here are Madhuvana, Satoha, that is Shantanu Kunda, Garuda Govinda, and Brahma Kunda in Vrindavana. So, to sum up, Shaivism was a very dominant sect in the early historic and early medieval periods, which is attested by the archaeological evidence. We have the harmonious integration of the Shaiva sect within the Mathura Mandala Parikrama. Apart from Lord Vishnu Krishna, Lord Shiva is the most represented deity in the Sthala Mahatmyas of Mathura. Lord Shiva's role as Kshetrapala is the most emphasized aspect, and he's supposed to dwell eternally in the Mathura region. He, in most of the Mahatma narratives, is associated with Lord Krishna. The Mathura Mahadevas are benevolent deities, and the Mahadevas are Vrajarupas. And the inclusion of the Mahadevas in the Mathura Mandala Parikrama has contributed immensely to the sacrality of this region. And we have the omnipresence of Lord Shiva in the Mathura region, which is endorsed and highlighted by references in the texts and the archaeological evidences. Thank you so much.
It was indeed a wonderful lecture, Snehaji. Very elaborately, you explained about the existence of Shaivism in Mathura region, because usually Indians and non-Indians have a concept that Mathura is only associated with Vaishnavism or the worship of Krishna. But thank you so much for enlightening us and to make us know that it also uh, had the impact of Shaivism and Jainism both. So thank you so much. So I have Thank you so much. I have a small question over. Like, can we see any majorly Ganapati or Shanmukha temples, as many as we can see Shivas in the region? You are on mute.
No. Yeah, I've unmuted. Yeah. The answer is no. But we have numerous icons of Kartikeya belonging to the Kushana and Gupta period in Mathura. So, Skanda Kartikeya was a very popular deity in ancient Mathura. The images of Ganesh also start appearing from the late Kushana period onwards. But we don't have any prominent shrine of Kartikeya in the present. In fact, the Mahatmya texts do not make any reference to Kartikeya, but there are a few references to Ganapati as Vignaraja in the Mahatmya texts. Like there is a Vignaraja Tirtha also on the Yamuna at Mathura. So there are modern temples of Ganesha, but overall there are very few references to Ganesha in the Sthala Mahatmyas of Mathura. In the modern period, there are, and we find Ganesha and Skanda along with the Shivalinga. So, surrounding the Shivalinga, we have Skanda, Ganesha, Parvati, and Nandi. But these sculptures are all modern. They are not medieval in origin. So we'll have the Shivalinga in the center, and the Shivalinga is surrounded by these four images. So that is where Kartikeya is represented. But we do not have any, as far as my knowledge goes, there is no separate shrine dedicated exclusively to Kartikeya in the Mathura region. But in the ancient times, he was a very prominent deity. That is for certain.
Thank you so much. We have lot of appreciatory comments. Sushila G has joined us. Excellent presentation, very informative and interesting. She has replied us. Rohini Udoji has
Yeah.
texted that Chan Mahiti Dili that information. She has
She's
the
my aunt. She's my maushi.
okay, nice. Thank you so much, Rohini ji, for joining us. Thank you. And it was really a wonderful talk. And surely we will get more views once the recorded version is also available. Your last lecture, I think mostly it had 270 to 290 views recently, as I checked. 290 or something views it had, which is good amount of response. So surely the lecture will get more views once it's posted as a recorded version. So thank you so much. And I take this opportunity to do the vote of thanks, as Nandan Shastri ji was supposed to join one more conference on museum studies. So he has gone there. So I'll take this opportunity to do the vote of thanks on behalf of Nandan Shastri sir, because he was going to do it. It was really very knowledgeable lecture. Thank you so much, Sneha ji, for giving us your precious time and doing this lecture. And we hope for your future collaborations too with history enthusiasts. And it will be great to have you on our platform in future too. I also take this
Thank you so
opportunity.
much.
Thank you so much. I also take this opportunity to thank our founder, President Manali Momaya, who created the brochure and collaborated for organizing this, and Nandan Shastri ji for supporting the ideology to organize this special lecture, and all our core committee members, advisory members, and importantly, our audience who have joined us through the lecture. Thank you so much. Have a good night. Stay safe and stay happy. We will come with a new thought, new lecture, new session. Stay tuned. Thank you so much. And if you feel the lecture important and worthy, knowledgeable, please share it with your friends, relatives, students, everyone, and in your groups. Like and subscribe to the channel. And if anyone have the questions in the afterwards when they see the recorded version, they can post it in the comment section. We will get the answers from the resource persons and inform you them. Thank you so much. We are signing off here.
Yeah.
Namaste.
Namaste.